Good afternoon, this is Media Center, Ukraine, Odesa. Now we are having an international online briefing. Our team has contacted volunteers from Kazakhstan supporting Ukraine. Our guests are Assyl Turgayev, volunteer from Astana, Angelina Kotenko, organizer of the 8 headquarters in Almaty, with vamy, we are with you, and Tetyana Melnyk, volunteer, humanitarian support headquarters of Ukraine in Astana, co-organizer of charity fairs in Astana. We'd like to welcome everyone and thank you for being with us today. Good afternoon. Assyl, can you tell us about the general perception of Kazakhstan of the Russian-Ukrainian war? So the climax was on the 24th of February last year. People went to work and then they just read the news and they were horrified with what they read. And the topic was discussed at work. People were shocked. And on the 24th, on the 25th of February, the different chats and WhatsApps and other messengers, the information was published asking people to support. That was all over Kazakhstan, but mainly in big cities, including Astana. And people starting coming to the embassy in Almaty. And that was perhaps the biggest support. Generally, I can say that most people are interested in the policy, who have active position, their own opinion. They support the international law and, of course, Ukraine. And this is right. There are people who still support Russia, but there are not so many of them, because I believe that people mostly support Ukraine. But when I start talking to them, I understand that the war is horrific, and they support Ukraine. The same can be said about social media. Russian supporters actively manifested themselves during first month. After the occupiers were repelled from Kiev, Oblast, Chernihiv, Sumy, Zmyny Island, or Snake Island, those Russian supporters became more silent. And if we talk about people's feelings, this is how it can be described according to my personal experience. Thank you very much. So the connection is not that good, but you can continue. Active people, educated people, people who are interested in political issues, they support Ukraine. We have one more speaker with us, Dinara. Dinara, can you hear me? Good afternoon, Dinara. Dinara Sabytova, volunteer from Almaty. Dinara, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Dinara, talk to us, please, if you can hear us. We can hear you. Good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Can you just share information about volunteer support? Because we have just given the floor to Assyl, who has said that most people support Ukraine, and this is good from the humane point of view. Can you share the details about volunteer support to Ukraine? I'm just an ordinary person. When the war started, I felt an urge to support Ukraine somehow. And closer to the end of February, I saw the activities of the headquarters to support Ukrainian people. It is, but it should be said that some people in Kazakhstan say that we support the armed forces of Ukraine, but actually we support ordinary Ukrainians. So how it all started, I just post that on the weekend, I was going to buy something for children and to bring to the headquarters. And then I wrote that if someone wanted to help, I could, but just could not go themselves. I could do them on their behalf. And the next day, I was just sending people my bank details, and I managed to raise quite significant amount of money. Then I just went to a shop to buy something. I saw that it would be physically challenging for me to take everything by myself. And I actually made a post on Facebook. Someone shared me a telephone number of a guy, and he arrived to help me. His car was just full. It was all what I had bought, and the next day we repeated it and bring products to the headquarters. That was the first headquarters that we had in another part of the city. This is how I became a volunteer. People kept sending me money, although I told them that I didn't have time to buy anything. But then I just managed to buy some things and posted receipts and reports for people. So people just trusted me. And it was quite interesting because all these people were not known to me personally. Those were my people that were befriended on Facebook, and I had to somehow to respond to them. People trusted me, and I had to just to buy something. And as for the products that you had bought, you brought them to the headquarters. And so who were your beneficiaries? Ukrainian refugees or Ukrainian diaspora in Kazakhstan? So we packed everything at the headquarters. When I befriended Ukrainians, we packed everything together. Then we warehoused them. A big truck just came to the warehouse to upload everything, and then traveled to Ukraine through different countries like Kazakhstan, Caspian area, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, and then to Ukraine. And Ukrainians who were constantly shelled received products from Kazakhstan. So you use trucks to move all these things to Ukraine from Kazakhstan. Wow, that's a big, long route. Yes. My colleague says that you also made like yurtas for Ukrainians. Can you share more details? That was also a spontaneous activities. One of our businessmen organized 3 yurtas for Ukrainians. And I'm a very emotional person, and perhaps this is the force that made me start supporting Ukraine, because I'm very emotional and I like people a lot. So when I read comments, I just felt tears in my eyes. and I was very thankful for the huge amount of comments from the good response from Ukrainians. And when I saw that people wanted to have theaters in the cities where they were staying, I again posted on Facebook asking to organize one more yurta from us, from people of Kazakhstan. As soon as I posted on Facebook, I started receiving money. So that were the same people who had helped before. So it was almost a year later, from March to January, almost a year. The people kept just sending money. When I calculated everything, I just thought about the amount of money needed to assemble everything, and I thought about whom I could involve in the process. And I fell asleep closer to the morning, and when I woke up, I saw a message from from a businessman. He just messaged me at 6 a.m. And then he just asked me again, are you still asleep? And he offered me to meet. And he said that he could just buy a generator and the transshipment. And then she decided that he could pay for the whole yurta. The money I had raised before were just left for yurta for some additional purchases. I still have the money to finance the yurta. Yurta has been installed in Mykolaiv. So you see that it took around 24 hours since I made a post on Facebook to raise money, thanks to that guy who is my friend now. Thank you. Angelina, can you tell us how these supporting points and volunteers work in Almaty? We have several such points. We have the Pasilka Foundation, or the Parcel Foundation, that actually collected humanitarian aid for Ukraine. We also have the point to support Ukrainians who are in Kazakhstan. Those internally, these are displaced persons who had to flee to Kazakhstan. So we also support them. And now we have the headquarters. The Parcel Foundation has some issues with its activities. That's why we have opened one more headquarters to collect everything which is needed. Now we are supporting Kherson after the explosion at the Kakhovka HPP dam. So we collect aid in Kazakhstan. These are non-perishable goods, power banks, like bed linen, towels. So these like packages that people need, first of all. As for medication and as for other things that we can buy in Ukraine, then we send money to Ukraine to buy those things in Ukraine. And we support different villages. For example, if we have an individual request from a village that medication is needed, we can buy it quite quickly in Ukraine. Because I have friends in Ukrainian, we have also relatives in Ukrainian, we send money to them, they buy everything, and then they provide all reports to us that we know that the aid is delivered. This is how we work. We are not limited with collecting aid and for some limited products. So we also raise money and send them to Ukraine because sometimes it's quick and easy to buy some things, some items in Ukraine. This is how we work. We also organize different events for people in from Kazakhstan and Ukraine. Recently, we've had Vyshyvanka Day. This is a national Ukrainian costumes. That was a great event, and refugees were able to have some rest and to forget for one evening about the war. Do you have a lot of refugees from Ukraine? I mean, in Almaty, Astana, and some other cities. Not so many people as there in Poland, but we try to help them to cope with the memories about the war and to make their life outside their home comfortable. We have refugees from Ukraine. These are mainly elderly and young mothers with their children. Thank you. I think we will come back to you later. Tetyana, can you share details about different trade fairs? You are a co-organizer of charity fairs in your city, in Astana. And now I would like ask to show the video that has been shared with us by volunteers to demonstrate everything. Tetyana, the floor is yours. I've joined the headquarters of the humanitarian aid to Ukraine during the first days of the full-scale invasion. I just came to the embassy of Ukraine. There saw hundreds of other people and just huge piles of humanitarian aid. And I understood that someone needed just to deal with all the items. Some people just came there to bring some items, some things. Others just stayed there helping to sort everything, to pack and to send further on to Ukraine. So I joined the headquarters during the first days of the full-scale invasion, and by November last year, we and other just young women organized such charity fairs for craft and handmade items. And we all have some studies or some work, but over the several months, like 7-8 months, every weekend we organize such trade fairs in places of interest like supermarkets, etc. I have questions from my colleagues. How many trade fairs have been already conducted? How many visitors have you had? And how much money has been raised for the period of time? The humanitarian quarters in Astana just consolidates the all humanitarian aid in Kazakhstan, which is consolidated and further sent by the embassy. This is more than 550 tons of humanitarian aid that has been sent from Kazakhstan to Ukraine using 24 trucks. Since the start of the first day invasion, these are diapers, food for children, and other items. And I think that we have not missed any weekend. This is about our group of volunteers, because not only our group is involved in organizing these charity fairs, and I think that we've managed to hold more than 80 trade fairs. And so we do not skip any weekends or holidays. So more than 80 trade fairs, charity fairs have been conducted already. So we used money raised to buy generators. We also buy Christmas gifts and we buy some things in Ukraine. So we send money to our relatives or friends. And so they also were able to buy Christmas gifts for Ukrainians. And we also we also sent generators from Kazakhstan. We also bought thermal boats. We also bought thermoses, and in Ukraine, we've recently bought the sports items for one of the IDP camps from eastern regions of Ukraine, and the camp is located in Brovary. Thank you. And my colleagues have one more question. We have still several more minutes. And perhaps this is a question to Assyl. Are we right in understanding that the young people of Kazakhstan support Ukraine more, but people born in the Soviet Union, they support Russia more? Are we right in understanding your words. Yes, if we try to classify it somehow, then perhaps it is so. We need to understand that what is what has been happening in Ukraine for the last several years has a significant impact on our society. And these are lessons to be learned. This is the questions of national identity. And generally, about our people, we need just to understand who we are. We should understand where we live, what are our roots, mainly cultural and spiritual, and what is our future life. And perhaps this is more close to young people because they also have identification questions and they try to find themselves in the adult life. And this is overlapped on the events in Ukraine. They started to look around, and they started understanding how it is important to identify themselves. But people who grew up in the Soviet Union, perhaps for them it is more difficult. But we cannot say that all people who were older than 45, 40 years support Russia. No, this is not like that. Because these people also traveled from villages to big cities. They moved to big cities, and they also have faced the things that Ukraine has been struggling with. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your help. Thank you for continuing supporting Ukraine from Kazakhstan. It is great to understand that your country is supported abroad. Thank you very much. Thank you for finding time to be with us today. Thank you for what you are doing. See you. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to heroes. Thank you very much. We've had with us volunteers from Kazakhstan who have been supporting Ukraine since the very beginning of the full-scale invasion. They also collect humanitarian aid. If journalists are interested in this topic, we will gladly share contacts of these volunteers for you to cover such activities, not only in the EU and the United States, but also in Kazakhstan. Please stay tuned.